Hello, and welcome back to Life Lessons with Barbara. This is the continuation of show number one. More exciting tales about my childhood growing up in Omaha.
Another highlight of that period in my life was that my mom got this job. Well, let me just kind of back up a little bit. My mother quit school in 10th grade, so she didn't have a high school diploma and didn't really have a trade. So she did day work, and so the Buffetts, Warren Buffett and his wife Susie, hired my mom to be their nanny and housekeeper. So anyway, that was quite a turning point in a little color girl's life. In the summers, we would go and stay at their home with their three sweet little kids. I mean, I think the oldest. I think I was maybe 2 years older than Howie was the oldest. And but the cool thing about mom was, even though her job was to cook and clean and to take care of the kids, she didn't have me do anything. She made it a point not to orient me or even introduce me to, that kind of way to make a living. So she did all the work. Sometimes I would help her carry, like the vacuum cleaner or something, but she didn't ask any more of me than she did the kids. And I look back on that and I'm grateful for it. Another thing about my mom, because she was just so wise. She would always say, "When you go to college." Now here I am living in the project. We're on welfare, and my mother's talking college, but it was just so ingrained. She was just so persistent about it that it never occurred to me that I had any other choice. And I figured, well, I guess I'm going because every chance she got, she'd say, "When you go to college, when you go." So that was another thing that I really loved about my mom. But back to the Buffetts. So when I stayed there, I have this guest room. I mean, it was beautiful. It had, this Japanese style furniture. The black lacquer with the beautiful paintings on it. I'm not sure what you call that, but I mean, I was in seventh heaven. That was my room. I had a TV, plush carpet. It was just beautiful. And that's where I stayed when I was there. Every bedroom had a bathroom, so I had my own bathroom. I mean, I had it going on. And then every once in a while, mom would allow me to bring, for a kid to come with me, but not too often. Excuse me. So that made me pretty popular too with the kids in the neighborhood. I didn't interact with Warren Buffett at all. Very rarely. He was to himself a lot whenever I was there and they were home and they were in town. We would go to stay when they were off away, traveling to Europe or whatever. And so we would be there, primarily to be with the kids. And my mom would, watch them and see to them and see to me. And so I didn't know him very well. Never did get to know him very well. But Susie, his wife, I adored her. I adored her. She was like a big sister, kind of, and she loved my mom. They were really truly friends, and even myself and Susie were friends. I remember playing tennis with her and her asking me to teach her how to dance and all kinds of things. And she would give me her clothes. So, when I was in junior high school and high school, boy, I had a pretty nice wardrobe. So that was kind of a special deal. Let me check on my time. Uh, oh my goodness, I didn't start it. Oh, let me see. Oh, okay. 32 minutes into my life story. All right. And so, those are kind of perks, the kind of things in a kid's life that makes a difference. Oh, another thing I wanted to say too about my life with the Buffetts was that they always had exchange students, and they were women. They were young women from African countries. And the one that I was the closest to was Sarah. She was from the Sudan, and she was so gorgeous. And she had this soft spoken voice and this lilt in her voice. And for me being the tomboy that I was, it was interesting that I could appreciate all that. But the only thing we knew back in those days about people from Africa was what we would see in the National Geographics, and with the women with no top on, and the guys and people with plates in their ears and all kind of carvings in their face and paint on their faces and all that stuff, and it made you feel kind of shamed, that that this was your representation of where you came from. And of course, it was a different culture that we can appreciate now. But when you're a little kid and you see that, that's kind of devastating. So anyway, I got to know Sarah especially, but there were other ones too. And something happened for me. I saw this is Africa too. A beautiful, poised, articulate, educated, woman, and who was kind and sweet. She would talk to me and let me bug her, and I asked her all kind of questions, and she told me that she was Muslim, and and at that point, I started really I started to really pay attention to religion and spirituality, instead of just seeing it as a place you go to hear good songs and hear somebody preach fire and brimstone, and at a point in the service, they sling the Bible across the room because they were so happy or whatever, and women would jump up and swing their arms around and stuff and almost knock us kids out because they were so happy and all of that. So that was it was entertainment. It was entertainment. But talking to her and seeing that, and then hearing that a person like her, because she wasn't Christian, was going to go to hell. And so I just couldn't reconcile that. But I kept my mouth shut. It didn't take much. I could ask 2 or 3 questions and then I'd get shut down. Like, how dare you question the Bible? How dare you? But anyway, that was my experience. So all of this made me who I am. And all of it will play into the lessons that I've learned. But anyway, those are just some side notes I wanted to say about that. But let me just kind of skip ahead. I think I was at 9 years old, and my mom had 2 boyfriends that I could remember. And the first one, his name was Clifton, and he was in the Air Force, and he was stationed in Japan. And he would send the most beautiful gifts to her, these fancy, beautiful fans, and what was it? Something of Paris perfume, and he would send these things to her. But for some reason, she didn't like him. But I just thought he was wonderful. And when he would come to the States and he would come to Omaha, he would hang out with us, and he was just so great. And he represented what I thought it would be like to have a father. I really, really liked him. But my mom didn't. She would give me all the things that he would send her, which was fine with me. I mean, that was pretty cool to have those, that perfume and the fans and all the other gifts that he would send her. And then this other one. I think I was about 9 years old. And he hadn't been around all that long, but I guess she felt that she could trust him. So she went out with her girlfriends and left him to take care of me. And so he molested me. Uh, I was asleep, and he brought me into my mom's room to sleep with him, and he fondled me and all that. But there wasn't any penetration or anything like that. And all I know is that just felt yuck. And I remembered my mother saying, don't let people touch you in places that they shouldn't, or however she said it. So right away I knew that I needed to tell her, even though he told me not to tell her. So I told my mama what happened, and that was the very next morning and the very next day, and he wasn't there, of course. And I could just see, because she is my grandmother's child, and I could just see this dark look on her face. She was, angry, to say the least. So later on that evening, she was getting dressed and putting her coat on and stuff, and I saw her put a switchblade in her purse. And I said, well, where are you going? And she said, I'm going to find him. I don't even remember his name. I'm going to find him. And I mean, that scared me. That really, really scared me, because I was thinking, oh, my mom might go and kill this man and go to jail, and who's going to take care of me? And it would be all my fault. I went through a lot of agony that night and didn't sleep until she came home. And she came home. When she came home, boy, I ran down those stairs and said, what happened? What happened? And she said, you don't have to worry about him bothering you ever again. And that's all she would say. I'd say, well, what did you do, Mom? What? But, the consolation was she wasn't dripping in blood. And no police came banging on the door or anything that night. So I figured, well, I guess everything's all right. But I did know one thing. My mom had my back. And there was never any doubt about it, though. So that was another major event in my life. And apparently, I'm not sure what was going on around the age of 10, but I think I discovered that I was poor. And I hadn't really realized that before. And that my life was so very different from most of my friends. And I felt odd, I guess. But I didn't know to what extent until I was an adult and I came across a diary that I kept when I was 10 years old. And in that diary, I said, I wished I was dead. And I don't recall being that depressed. At 10 years old, wishing to be dead was, I don't recall. So that was something. But apparently, I was depressed. So that was a surprise to me. And then when I was 11, that's when we got word that my brother got pneumonia and died in this institution. So I never did get to see him again. I was filled with grief, but also with shame because of the way I would treat him sometimes. Not, viciously or anything, but sometimes that resentment would overwhelm me that he wasn't normal and that it was because of him that I was, having to fight and go through all these things in the neighborhood. And so there would be times when I would just shun him or push him away or ignore him. And I knew I hurt him. I could see the hurt in his eyes and stuff. And then when I find out that he's dead and that I'd never see him again, that was traumatic for me, really traumatic for me, even though I hadn't seen him for a couple of years. But I felt him forgive me, or I felt that unconditional love that he had for me when he was alive. I could feel that in my spirit. And so I always felt that my brother was always a part of me from that day forward. And that he had forgiven me for being mean to him. Another thing that was happening when I was 11 years old, or 10, 11, in that age range, I started to care a little bit about how I looked. I started to do some practicing and figure out how to, make my hair look nice and stuff, because my mom still worked. I never knew her not to work. And so, and I think at that time, the boys started to think I was cute. And being a tomboy. Oh, I got to tell you this one story about the story my mother used to tell about me all the time. She would tell this story about one Christmas, or, right before Christmas. And what I asked for a bottle of perfume and a gun and holster set. I think I was about 11. And I remember she sat me down and she said, "You're going to have to decide. You're going to have to make up your mind whether you want to be a boy or a girl." And excuse me. And she would tell her friends, and then every Christmas she'd tell that story. But yeah, I was at the crossroads. I was having, but I was still fighting. I remember, I think I was 11. Yeah, I was 11 and I was in the 6th grade. And this boy, and all my life I was fighting boys as well as girls. It didn't matter to me. And so this boy, for some reason, I don't know why he got in my face, but it was time to fight him. He had said some things or whatever, and I was ready to go to blows, right? I think I got one good punch in. And that boy turned me every way but loose. It was the worst beating I ever got. And I'm thinking, this fighting ain't all it's cracked up to be. But that was my one life lesson. You don't fight guys, on their terms. They are physically different. And that was a revelation for me, and I learned it the hard way. So that was I was getting, close to the end of my fighting career, and that kind of accelerated it. Also in the 6th grade, because I started to kind of look cute to people, I got invited to be part of Jackie's gang, and that was a real big deal. Jackie was, a real cool kid, and so I felt honored to be invited to be a part of her gang. And what made us a gang is we all wore the same hairdo. It's kind of like a round bang kind of thing and a ponytail in the back. And back then, folks, I know you won't believe this, you young people, but we had to wear dresses to school. We could not wear pants. So what we would do is put a pair of shorts on under our dresses, and then after school, we take those skirts off, and and there we were, so we were bad, we were super bad, but we really didn't do anything gangster at all, really, except maybe pick at the white Catholic girls when they were going home from school. But other than that, we were just a bunch of kids that hung out together, and it was good to feel a part of and to be accepted. And I think that was probably the first time I really felt accepted. And I got to backtrack. I got to tell you about when I met my best friend, who is Lois, Lady Mac McMorris. She was who you heard on the intro that for my show. She plays the guitar, and she is awesome. But anyway, back in the day, she thinks it was 4th grade, but I know it was 3rd grade. I was playing hooky like I would do when I didn't want to be bothered at school. If I made it to school, I'd hang out in the bathroom, and I found a few other places I could hang out where people wouldn't see me. And this was one of those days. And so I came out of my hiding place, and there was this girl at the top of the steps, and she had on leggings. She was all bundled up and everything, looking like a little colored snowman. And anyway, that's when I met Lois, and she became my best friend, and we have been best friends ever since. And so I had friends. And Janice was another one. Janice was my friend in the projects. I think we met probably when I was 6 or 7. And she's that ride or die friend. She would walk with me when I was walking my brother in the neighborhood, and while I was while I was fighting, she was keeping people away from him, and she had my back. That was Janice. And she's my other good friend, and we're still friends to this day as well. I guess because I didn't have any sisters, my friends are like sisters to me. Anyway, okay, 50 minutes into my story, and I haven't even gotten to junior high school yet. Okay, so let me tell you about that. I'm going to jump ahead. Junior high school, that was the bomb. When I was in grade school, we were in this old, decrepit place, predominantly white, because black people, as you probably have guessed, were a small minority in Nebraska and in Omaha. And so there's just, not a whole lot of us. And we went to school with poor kids. And this building was old and probably had asbestos or whatever horrible that we were breathing every day. Rats running around in the basement. And that's where we ate. We took our little lunches and had to eat down there. And there were rats and rat droppings. And it was horrible. Lothrop School. And so the word got out that they were building a junior high school because we're baby boomers and we're in overflow and they had nowhere to put us. So they built us our own junior high school. And for those of you who don't know, junior high, at least in Omaha, it was the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. Well, the 9th graders were the ones who were in the 8th grade were already psyched to go to high school. So they went on to high school. So when Horseman opened, I was in the 7th grade, and so the 7th grade and the 8th grade started that school. It was our school, and for the first time we had black teachers, and for the first time we had role models, and they would tell us, you can do anything you want, you can be anything you want, and they inspired us and helped us to build confidence and at some point, I'll tell you about all of the famous, amazing people that grew up in the black community in Omaha, Nebraska. This was a turning point for me. I reconciled about Africa. Okay, my ancestors came from Africa, but look at the example, that I could relate to. Someone gorgeous and refined and educated and all of that. And then it was okay to be black in America. And I'll be grateful to those teachers for the rest of my life for the inspiration that they gave us. So anyway, quick story about grade school, watching the time. About junior high school was, we're running it now, right? It's predominantly black now. We're in charge. And, that was the time when, we were, going through the early adolescence. We started getting interested in the boys, and it was just a special time. It was a special time. So the next step after Girl Scouts was what we call Y Teens, and I don't know if that was authentic thing, but it was the next step for us. And then and in the Y teens, we go to the YWCA and they, teach us charm things, how to what silverware to use and how to stand like a lady and all that kind of stuff. And we'd have dances and we'd do plays and all that stuff. And of course, I was right in the middle of that, and I was always a good dancer. So my popularity really soared when I got into junior high school. And I mean, that was the best time ever, the best time ever. And that seventh and eighth grade class, we continued to have reunions every other year, way up into my 50s, 40s, and 50s. So that's how close we were. It was just a good time. Junior high school. Let me see. Oh, okay. One other little thing that I had to deal with was the slow growth of my boobs. all my friends, they were really, developing a rack, and I had nothing. And I begged my mom to get me a bra. So in my mind, I'm thinking, you have, if you wear a bra, then your boobs will grow. And she said, well, you're not ready, or you're not. And oh my goodness, I was miserable. So I started kind of rigging my own, and stuffing, I created what I thought looked like a bra and stuffed it with. And so when she saw that, she gave in and she got me this training bra. And then I bought some Fossies to put in there and stuff. I had to make do until my own kind of grew in. So, well, that was traumatic. That was traumatic for a 12-year-old, 13-year-old girl. But that was, it was good growing up there.
Well, on that note, I think we'll call it a show. Please tune in again next time, and I'll have a little more about my life in Omaha, Nebraska and beyond. And then I'll be looking to hear from you. To go to my website and leave me a message or ask a question. Let me hear from you what you want to hear. Take care and look for those golden nuggets in everything that happens in your life.
BEJ Associates LLC offers a broad array of services, including life coaching to help achieve your personal goals, planning, facilitation, and presentations of workshops, seminars, and conferences, various customized services, diverse and personalized addictions intervention, and organizational staff development. We specialize in dismantling barriers to individual and organizational achievement. BEJ Associates. Enlighten, inspire, motivate at bej-associates.com.